Turkey. Okahawking Indian Town. The chiefs, Pocayas, Sepaupauni, and Matagupa, with their people of the Unami group, their totem, the tortoise of the Lenni Lenape, or Delawares, were moved from lower Ridley and Crum creeks by William Penn to the square tract of 500 acres on the north side of this road. East of Ridley Creek, the only Indian reservation the proprietor ever established in 1701. And there's the turtle. Hey YouTube, today we're going to talk about the Okahawking Nature Preserve. It says virtue, liberty, and independence. And there's a ship, and then several other motifs. I believe that's wheat. And this is an anvil or a plow. That's a plow. A ship, a plow, and wheat. Okay folks, we are here at the Okahawking Nature Preserve. Before we go in, let's read a paper real quick. Okay, the Okahawking, a remnant band of Delaware Indians, Marshall Joseph Becker, Pennsylvania archaeologist, Bulletin of the Society of Pennsylvania Archaeology. Now, this is quite a long paper, so I'm going to skip down through it and we'll pick out the pertinent information. First, let's start with this interesting paragraph here that says, the Okahawking Indians Land Grant, a third and equally unsuccessful attempt to provide for the last Indians of Chester County, was made through the direct grant of a tract of land to the Okahawking Indians. This parcel, often called the Okahawking Reservation or Indian Town, was given to a small band of Indians in what appears to be a unique case in Pennsylvania history. In 1703, the Okahawking or Okahawking were deeded a 500-acre settlement or parcel of land. Now, Okahawking is, I think, that's a misunderstanding. I read on the Wikipedia page that Okahawking was the name of a Lenape leader over in New Jersey, and the names are very similar, so the settler colonialists got it wrong and thought that the Okahawking were the Okahawking, but that's not true. They're the Okahawking. So let's read this. Okay. The former territory of this band, as noted by the colonials, was the area along the Delaware River, although they probably ranged over the entire area along Ridley and Crum creeks. Their land most likely included the area along the Delaware and the entire zone along the valleys of Ridley and Crum creeks, as well as an enormous area in the interior of the state far beyond the upper reaches of these creeks. Okay, and here's a map. I'm going to actually try to turn here. You can see it better that way. So you can see here's Ridley Creek State Park, and there's Okahawking. That's the area we are at right now. But here's Chester Creek, here's Ridley Creek and Crum Creek, and the Okahawking lived between these creeks all the way down to the Delaware. The second inference which might be made concerns the size of this band, since three names are mentioned: Pocayas, Sepaupauni, Matagupa. The references are made to others, Assumably, these 3 men were the respected elders, and perhaps 3 or 4 other men may have headed families. The 3 named Indians are not called chiefs. The Indians, who easily walked 50 miles or more in a day, may have traveled far inland to traditional winter hunting grounds, while still resident on their tract in Willis Township. The Okahawking path, which Wallace traces from Gradyville to Pauling Ford on the Schuylkill River, may have been part of the traditional route used by this group. The Okahawking probably deserted their tract for long periods of each year to hunt or pursue other activities. This idea is supported by Chester Warrant, County Warrant Number 1, see below. The Indians' departure was completed by 1735, if not before, inasmuch as Chester County Warrant Number 1737 notes that the Indians had been gone for several years. As per the terms of the grant, the Indian land reverted to the proprietary and was subject to reallocation. The Yarnell brothers, who already had property in the area and probably reported the departure of the Okahawking at the same time that they filed for the Indians' 500 acres, were issued Chester County Warrant Number 1 on August 31st, 1737. The warrant refers to the earlier warrant, which had been written for the Indians, and indicates the following. A certain tract of about 500 acres, surveyed and circumscribed for the settlement and use of certain Indian natives, who had theretofore dwelt in that part of the said county, and were to hold the said tract of land so long as themselves and their children should continue to dwell thereon, and at or upon their departing and leaving the same, then the said tract of land was to revert to our sole use and behoof, and said Indians have for several years past entirely left and defected the same, and none of them now remaining thereon. The said land is become subject to our disposal, and now upon an agreement made with Amos and Mordecai Yarnell. You see the turtle clan. Okay, so this is the Okehocking Nature Preserve, and just read that paper a little bit, and there's a lot to digest about this place. Honestly, it's a very complicated area, but first thing to point out is you notice that this is a very hilly landscape. There's a huge hill over this way that kind of goes up, and then it comes down into the valley here and then goes up again. There's another big hill there. So it's not very good for farming, or it wouldn't have been easy to farm back in the day. And that gives you a little clue as to why the colonists didn't want this land and maybe gave it to the Native Americans, or allowed them to be here unmolested, so to speak, right? And the Native Americans tended to be more into hunting. I'm sure they did some farming of corn and other goods, as the paper noted. But they were also much more into hunting. So maybe they didn't really need too much agricultural land? Unclear. So one of the first questions to answer is, who were the Okahawking? And the Okahawking were the band of Unami Lenni Lenape, because, there were the Lenni Lenape, the Lenape, were the tribe of southeastern Pennsylvania, northern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and up into New York a little bit too, but mostly southeastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Within that group, within the Lenape, there were 3 clans. The Unami, the Turtle Clan, Tamanend was the leader of the Turtle Clan, and I'm forgetting the name of the clan that was over in New Jersey. But those were the 3 clans: the New Jersey group, the southeastern PA, and the northeastern PA groups. Now, the group here, the Unami, within their group, there was a band of Indians named the Okahawking. And the Okahawking lived on Crum Creeks and Ridley Creek, going from the Delaware, the coast of the Delaware, all the way up into the headwaters of Ridley Creek, Crum Creek, and beyond into the hinterland of Pennsylvania. So they really covered a large area. Now, I read in that paper and on the Wikipedia page that essentially when the colonists came from Sweden and the Netherlands, they had good relations with the Unami and didn't really disturb them too much. Then when the Quakers came, they also tried their best not to cause violence between the groups. And this led to a period of relative harmony, except for the fact that because the Okahawking were already reduced in numbers because of plague, there had been a massive smallpox outbreak several generations before William Penn came. We're talking in the 1640s, 1630s. In that time, from initial first contact would have been 1610, 1620s, and then into the late 1630s. That's when there was a smallpox outbreak in the Unami area, in this area of Ridley Creek and Crum Creek. And that greatly reduced their numbers. It basically eliminated a vast portion of the population. And there are people here. I don't want to disturb them. But this is Ridley Creek right here. So we'll come back. All right, yeah, it's a hot day, so there are people down on the creek enjoying themselves, swimming around in the water, cooling off. I actually think I might recognize one of them from high school, but in any case, so there was a smallpox outbreak. It killed off a lot of them. So by that's 1630s, 1640s. So then by the 1670s, when the English settlers really started pushing up the creeks, up Ridley Creek, up Crum Creek, the Unami, the Okahawking group, their numbers were getting reduced, and they moved northward to get away from the settlers, and they came here. Long story short, by 1682, when William Penn signed the treaty with Shecamaxon, that's when the Quaker population really exploded, and they really took over. They started coming up the creeks in a big way. And by 1686, the Okahawking, they really needed land, and they didn't have a good spot where they could get away from the settlers and not be harassed, not be encroached on. The settlers were cutting down all the trees and all the forests, and the Okahawking needed a place to be where the trees wouldn't be cut down. So they petitioned the Congress, or the colonial proprietary government in Philadelphia, for a place to be, and that government gave them this area, which at the time was much larger. It was a tract of land about 500 acres of there was a larger tract that William Penn had given to a group of Quakers. The Quakers he gave this tract to were the Welsh Quakers, which is why a lot of places in this area of Edgemont and Willis Township, a lot of places around here tend to have Welsh names, like Bryn Mawr and Glen Alden, Glen Stuff, all these Welsh sounding names. And the thing is, a lot of these Quakers, William Penn gave them 40,000 acres, but they didn't all settle here. Not all of them took over the land that Penn gave them. I'll take a break. So basically, some of the land that was given to the Quakers, one big chunk of it was given to a guy named John Griffith, something like that. And he wasn't using his land. He never showed up. So the proprietary government, the proprietors who, ran the land, the doling out of land, basically decided to give his land to the Native Americans who wanted it. So that's the story of how the Okahawking essentially ended up on this tiny little square of land in just to the north of Ridley Creek State Park. Now, already by the 1690s, and then definitely by the turn of the century, 1700, the Okahawking group, they started off small. They were getting smaller. I mean, when they began, there were only like 25 of them, maybe 30, 40, something like that. Very small group of Native Americans who were here to start. And by the turn of the century, 1710s, there really weren't that many left anyway. A lot of them decided to move on. Oop, whoa, gotta be careful here. A lot of them decided to move on, find other places where the colonists weren't encroaching on their land. Some went up to there's some rumors that they went up to Swatara Creek, Tulpahawking, that area, but no one really knows where they went. Eventually, by the 1730s, there weren't any Indians here anymore, so they had all left, and there's some reports that maybe they were already in Kansas by then. All right, I'm looking for a good place to go down and get into the water, but there is stinging nettle everywhere, or 7-minute itch. I don't know if those are the same thing, but I'm getting stung a lot by these nettles. It hurts. Now, I also read that Okahawking means walnut, right? So here's a black walnut for you. This is what they look like when they're not in full season. They're not super ripe, but they smell great. Oh my gosh. And traditionally, you got to pick a target and chuck the seeds at them. So we're going to hit that tree. Ah, just missed. All right, I found a good spot. So let's get in. Let's do a little creek walk, yeah? Woo! The water is cold. And it's pretty silty at the bottom, but I see some little fishies. That's nice. Let's see if we can see find any interesting rocks down under here. What do you think? Look at how beautiful that is. Now, I grew up walking around in creeks like this. So this is a little bit of what living in Pennsylvania is like. Oh, here you go. Let's see. I think I found something. Yeah, let's see. What's this? Oh, it's nothing. Dang it. I got tricked. So that's a pretty significant looking crossing, and I think that must be where horses probably come in. They probably come in and then they cross the creek and go up that way. That looks like a horse trail to me. So gotta watch where I step because there might be nails and whatnot. But this also means this would have been a good spot for crossing back in the day too. So could be some interesting things in the water here. We'll see. Alright, what's that? I think I see a piece of a brick here. Yeah, look at that. An old brick. Who knows what that's from? Yeah, lots of chunks of old bricks in these creeks, that's for sure. Yeah, and look, here's some old clams, you know. These clams were definitely something that the Native Americans would have eaten. I don't know if they would have eaten this species of clam, but clams were probably a major part of their diet. They ate shellfish for sure. So if not this species of clam, then a very similar species that lived in the creeks back in the day. What's that? Oh yeah, just another clam shell. So these clams are everywhere, but they definitely, I don't know if they would have eaten that exact species, but something like that. Okay, let's see what this is. Just a piece of bark, but the water is definitely shallower here, and there's this big rock here, so I'm sure this has been around for a while. And then there's a line of stones going out from it. So this very well could be some sort of old structure. There's another line of rocks there. You never know. You never know why these rocks are here, but all these creeks were dammed up at different times. And part of why the Okahawking Indians wanted to come to this area was to avoid all the dams that were affecting their fishing. And they even went to the Pennsylvania Provincial Congress a couple times between 1690 and 1720, so around in that area, in that time zone, to complain about settlers, colonialists building dams and, you know, messing with their fishing. And I think they were given some hearing, but it just goes to show you that the colonists didn't really respect Native American land rights, you know. What is that? Look at this this rock is kind of cool. It's very different. What is that? It's very pointy. It has that curvature to it. Let me know in the comments if you think this is something significant. I mean, it's very smooth on this side. Has a weight to it. Although that looks natural to me. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what this is, but it almost feels like a piece of shell, but it's too big and chunky for that, I think. So let me know in the comments what you think. Yeah, look at this. Easy. That's an old brick. This could easily be 300 years old. I don't see any markings on it, but yeah, that's an old brick. That's the size they were. And this one's in very good condition. It's got a little hole. Okay, I'll put it back. Here's another chunk of brick of some sort. Okay, I walked back across the creek, but look at this. Oh my gosh. Look at how beautiful that is. I'm gonna get the camera to focus. Look at that. It's like got blues and greens. Oh yeah, that's a beaver. Beaver's been chewing on that tree for sure. Oh yeah, almost took out that tree. Got almost there and then left it. Come on, Mr. Beaver. Finish the job. So right there's the creek, and then here is this nice meadow area. You can just imagine that there would have been wigwams, longhouses, and a village here. Yeah. Now it's all overgrown. Maybe this wasn't the village site, but it might have been. You never know. And the path just keeps going, but we're gonna head back now. Okay, so I actually went to a different part. So we started off down here in this part of the reserve. And then I drove up here, and we're now in this parking lot right there. Now I wanted to show you this because this road, part of the story of this preserve is that this road is Delchester Road. And Delchester was a road that was built right through the old reservation. The reservation was sort of like this, between Ridley Creek, where we were, and this edge of the land. There was this reservation, and the colonists built a road right through the middle of the preserve, and that kind of was strange because it showed a disrespect for the property rights of the Okahawking Native Americans. So that was strange. It's a little controversial. You can look into the history of Delchester Road, but it's a little strange. Another interesting thing is you see this section of land, which is across the road from where I'm standing. I'm standing there, and the road is right there. You can see Delchester Road right there. Just across that area is this overgrown piece of land. I showed you a gate earlier covered in vines and weeds, and guess what that is? That is a Nike missile launch base. I believe from World War II or Vietnam, not sure, but it is a Nike missile base, and it's overgrown. But that's what it is. You can look it up on Google Maps, and it says missile base right there. So yeah, it's just got a chain link fence around it, and it's built on the old Okahawking preserve reservation. So there's the sign for Okahawking Preserve, and then if you look across, this is the Nike missile base, and look, you can see a platform over the fence. I don't know what that is exactly, but something to do with Nike missile launch base. It's completely overgrown. You can see all the kudzu growing all over it. So yeah, just an abandoned missile base right across from the Okehocking Indian town, Okahawking reservation. Now, I guess this is also called Penn's Preserve, and it's a wastewater spray area. Now I almost did forget. I did want to see if we see any birds of prey, and I don't see any birds of prey at the moment. No hawks, but there are many birds. There are bird houses everywhere, and I'll just be quiet for a bit and you tell me if you can hear them. I don't know, could you hear them? Let me know in the comments if you could. Again, I don't see any birds of prey, but I did see a hawk somewhere up here earlier, so anyway. I'm sure the ancients are watching over us. We thank them for letting us visit this very beautiful place. This is one of the most interesting places in Pennsylvania, and a crucial part of Lenape history happened here. So thank you again to the ancestors for allowing us to explore it. All right, so that's more or less the story of the the Okahawking Native American reservation. That was the only reservation in Delaware County, Chester County, as far as I know. You know, back then I don't think Delaware County had formed yet. It was still part of Chester County. So Willistown Township, near Edgemont, Okahawking Preserve. That's the story. By 1735, probably the Indians were gone, so they weren't around here any longer. But that was, this is where the last, if you're from Delaware County and you're wondering what happened to all the Indians from the creeks, Crum Creek and Ridley Creek especially, there were definitely Native American groups living all up and down those creeks for thousands of years. Where did they all go? Well, after smallpox took them out, after the colonists pushed them from the Delaware up the creeks, this is where they ended up last. This was the last place they lived. Okahawking Preserve off near, Providence, Edgemont, whatever you want to call it, Willis Township. And then they took off west for Kansas. So I think I did read that there are some groups maybe still in Kansas who call themselves Okahawking or some name similar to that. If any Lenape watching this know of any Okahawking groups, please send them this video, let them know. My email's in the description. I'm also starting an email list. It started actually. So if you want to join the email list, please find my email in the description of this video. I'll be doing other things like more walking history tours, and I've got a membership area, so become a member and we'll do some more interesting things that I can't really fit on the main channel here. But in general, if you like all of this, I'm investigating Lenape Native American sites in Delaware County and around the Philly area in general. If you like this sort of thing, please give a subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you want to see more of, because I'm always looking for more ideas. So, and also let me know what you think in general of Okahawking if you've been here. So yeah, that's it. Thanks again to all my viewers, and I'll see you in the next one. My name's Sean. This is my channel, It's All Good. Take care.